Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee with Craig. We very much appreciate you guys tuning in. It's going to be a little bit of a short one because I got to head over to the California State Capitol. There's a number of bills that are taking place that are going to be up this morning, so I got to be suited and booted and ready to fight the fight. You guys know how it is. Before we get into today's topic, which by the way is going to be one of the bills that's up today, I wanted to let you guys know there's going to be a I don't want to call it a rally, but it's going to be a protest. You guys have heard a lot about all of the anti-gun protests that have been on there. Well, a group of students is putting on a nationwide student walkout on May the 2nd. Now, I don't have a lot of details on it because it sounds like it's something that's just starting to work together, but I wanted to put this out there because I know that a lot of you folks are probably hearing a lot about it. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to encourage you to have those folks contact us at the Firearms Policy Coalition so that we can make sure they have access to information on how to make sure that their rally is done in a way that protects their constitutional rights. You guys might remember just last week we put out we launched K12 K12speech.com, and on there is a K12 pro-gun speech guide that can be utilized by parents and by students, by teachers, or by school districts in order to help make sure that the constitutional rights of your students, of your children, are protected in the event that you want to do events like this or not participate in anti-gun events. But want to encourage you guys, number one, if you know somebody, if you know a school or an area, somebody that is putting on one of these rallies, please send them to K12speech.com and tell them to download the student free speech guide. It will be a tremendous help for them as they're going into the event, as they're conducting the event, as well as once the event is over. Should they need some level of support or something go on that shouldn't go on, there's some important steps that they want to make sure that they take. And also let us know, if we can, we'll help letting people know what's going on in their area. So please let us know. So that, from what I understand, May 2nd is the day. Students are going to be walking out for 16 minutes. You're not going to hear it in the mainstream media because they're not writing about it. I saw it in an article on AmmoLand, but make sure you guys help get the word out. Make sure if you know any students who are interested in doing this at their school, get them plugged in. All right, because it's important. It's vitally important that we promote free speech amongst our young people. Now, on that note, there's a bill that's up today, and I did it yesterday as a battle of the day, and I really wanted to cover this bill in a little bit more detail today. It is a bill that is by Senator John Moorlach. Now, Senator John Moorlach, although I have to admit he's never actually carried a pro-gun bill, he's generally been a reliable vote when it comes to the Second Amendment. All that having been said, he's carrying a bill that, in talking with his staff, is really kind of emanated out of a lot of the issues that have taken place at some of the Trump rallies or some of the conservative rallies where Antifa or protesters have brought all sorts of manner of stuff and basically sought to induce violence at these particular events. And so he wanted to get together and he wanted to have a discussion on how we address the issue of the heckler's veto. This is where the Antifa folks and the left-wingers have basically decided that, we're going to make sure that people with whom we disagree don't have an opportunity to speak. We're going to do so by threatening them with violence. And so his answer to this problem was to introduce a bill, Senate Bill 1099. And in Senate Bill 1099, there are a number of items which are banned from being brought to protests. Now, the number one issue that we have with the bill is that it makes it so that even if you have a concealed carry permit, you are not allowed to be armed at a gathering or a rally or a protest. Even if you have a concealed carry permit, you forfeit your rights, because under this bill there is no exemption for those with the CCW. But that's not the only thing. I mean, this thing goes as far as to ban things like, oh, I don't know, catapults. Yes, catapults is one of the things that is forbidden underneath this bill. Here's a couple of the other things. Bear repellent, wrist rockets, water balloons, protest signs that cannot be folded up, meaning if they're too thick and can potentially be used to hit somebody, then you're not allowed to utilize them. Wood, pipe, chain, bricks, or just about any material that can be picked up or thrown, as well as super soakers. Now, once again, the thing that bugs me about this is that if one of the gun grabbing left were to introduce a bill like this, we would be as equally as upset. But the problem and the challenge that I have at this case is this is someone who is a conservative. And if anyone were to ever hear Mr. Moorlach speak, they would come to know, yes, this is an individual who definitely, not probably 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, would or should be with us. The problem is that when we get caught up in the emotions of some events, like in these particular rallies, then sometimes we as conservatives can get caught up in the infringement of civil rights, right? And that's the thing where we really have to be careful, because let us not forget, it was a Republican who passed and signed into law the Mulford Act here in the state of California. Ronald Reagan, that's right, Ronald Reagan was a Republican who supported gun control. And it was done because of a largely emotional thing that took place with the Black Panthers walking onto the floor of the California State Assembly with loaded firearms. And that's what eventually would ban open carry of loaded firearms in the state of California. Once again, an emotional event occurs, and so even we as Republicans can get caught up in the emotional tide, which then causes us to support liberal policy. We have a Republican here this year who's supporting the idea of expanding gun rights amongst another group of law enforcement, yet still at the same time violating the rights of law-abiding citizens. That's Assemblyman Vopel. And his emotional thing is, well, these are law enforcement. Well, if the firearms are unsafe for average citizens, and law enforcement receives no more training on these firearms than do the average citizen, then I don't understand exactly, once again, why we should be expanding rights for, once again, these are not duty weapons. These are off-duty weapons that these individuals are now going to be allowed to purchase. I don't understand exactly what the point of that is. And the worst thing is that a staff member for this particular member decided to say, well, but you know that all Republicans are pro-Second Amendment and supporters of Second Amendment rights. And while that may be in our party platform, let us be clear, not all Republicans are pro-Second Amendment. All I have to do is say Catherine Baker. That's right. You have Catherine Baker, who voted to ban guns here in the state of California. You have David Hadley, who also voted to ban guns here in the state of California. Ling Chang also voted to ban guns in the state of California. Eric Linder, who voted to ban open carry, ban concealed carry on school grounds. You've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was a governor who signed anti-gun gun banning legislation. So forgive me if I have a few questions about Republicans always supporting the Second Amendment. We have a president who said, forget due process. No, take the guns now, due process later. Who supports the idea of banning firearm ownership for adults, law-abiding adults under the age of 21. So no, I'm sorry, but we as Republicans can get just as caught up in emotion and wind up supporting things that are not supportive of our constitutional rights. And therefore, we Republicans sometimes need to be put in check as well. And while I have the utmost respect for Senator John Moorlach, I would encourage you to take some time, contact his office in as nice a way as possible. Let him know that the idea of banning the constitutional rights of disarming law-abiding citizens simply because they want to attend a protest is a bad idea. It is. And once again, this is a guy who normally, I'm telling you, in most cases, this guy is a friend to the California gun owner. And unfortunately, in this case, he's just got it wrong. He does. And he needs to know that. And he's not going to know that by listening to the anti-gun left. And the anti-gun left, they're just going to vote down his bill simply because they're like, well, okay, yeah, we are Republican. We want to kill your bill. But they need to hear from us. And this is what I would like to say, best done in a form of positive correction. Let him know that you support, you appreciate his support of the past, but in this particular case, he needs to just let this bill die. He needs to just let this bill die and never, don't try this one again. Bad idea, bad bill, and we need to hold all of our Republicans accountable. Let's just be honest. Look, I don't care how good your intentions are. It's not the intentions that matter. It's the outcome. And if the outcome of a bill like this says that even though you have a legal right to bear arms, and you have a license to bear arms, that you have to give up that right, even though you have all the reason in the world to be able to. Because here's the thing. Here's what we know. At these particular events, we all know that it's not going to be the law-abiding that are going to not have pipes. Let me clarify. It's only going to be the law-abiding who are not going to have weapons, who are not going to have bricks, who are not going to have super soakers. We know that only the law-abiding are going to follow this law, but we also know that the not law-abiding, that the Antifa folks, the very folks that Mr. Moorlach claims he wants to make sure don't get a chance to have their heckler's veto, they're going to be there, and they're going to break the law. And they are going to have their heckler's veto. And therefore, it's incumbent upon us amongst our policymakers, to not disarm individuals who seek nothing more than to be able to express their First Amendment constitutional right to peaceably assemble, but also their fundamental human right to be able to defend themselves, including their constitutional right to bear arms. Just saying, Mr. Moorlach, normally I'm with you, but today, not so much. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you so much for liking and sharing these videos, telling your friends about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Remember, you got to use them or you're going to lose them. We'll talk to you later.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.